Hello, this is colleague J.N.S, and today we are continuing with the Queen Mothership Enterprise Architecture, and we are on part 7. And part 7 covers sustainable Queen Mothership villages, and that is the intentional community component of the Queen Mothership. So we'll be working out of chapter 8 and chapter 11. Now remember, this is a part of a larger blueprint that was published in January. That is 130 pages long, but we want to do a video version of that so that we can increase transparency and so that Black Americans can have easier access to get a hold of the information when they need to refer or learn more about what exactly this Queen Mothership is, in its entirety. So remember, we're on part 7. In part 1, we talked about the intentions and the definitions of a Queen Mothership enterprise architecture. It was pretty much a transparency session. And then part 2, we covered the governance, the actual branching of the Queen Mothership, how it looks, what kind of councils we have, the role of men, the role of children, the role of women, what each role will be doing, the role of elders. We talked about governance in its entirety. And then part 3, we talked about the social fabric. We talked about our culture. We talked about how we have a culture of land acquisition, technology, developing our vocational skills, gardening, all types of things that make up our culture, technology skills. And that was very important to cover the social fabric, just so you can see the foundation of which the Queen Mothership is based upon. And it's more in detail, obviously, as far as what the social fabric component was. For the most part, we covered land acquisition, culture, education, vocational skills, technology, I believe there was family, but overall it was just the social fabric. Obviously it's dynamic, so it's expected to evolve as the Queen Mothership evolves. And so now we had part 4, which was the economics, when we talked about the community trust funds. We talked about barter app economies, which is alternative forms of fiat currency that we can work with. So we talked about that. And then part 5 was defense. We talked about what kind of defense we would have in the Queen Mothership in terms of martial arts, archery, marksmanships, intelligence apparatuses to safeguard against spies and whatnot. And we're still going to cover that more in depth because there's a whole chapter dedicated to that. And then part 6 covered power. We talked about collaboration, we talked about conflict resolution, we talked about how to gain power via technology in terms of looking to do initiatives in solar, renewable energy, antimatter, fusion power. One of the things that the Queen Mothership aims to do is to fund our children inventive power. We want to fund them, in terms of getting into technology. We want to fund them to be able to invent things, to give them the resources that they need to really propel our power base in terms of technology and the things we want to get in front of as Black Americans to become powerful. So that is what the Queen Mothership is up until now. So today we cover sustainable Queen Mothership villages. And the Queen Mothership village component again, and the Queen Mothership village is the intentional community component of the Queen Mothership. So that is where Black Americans, they come together and they start to form their own parallel infrastructures. They start to work together. They start to build trust and community. And again, it's not going to be everyone that is on board with this. It's not everyone that cares about this. It's not everyone that agrees with the premise of matriarchal societies or following a blueprint that was created by a woman. Or there's just people that just don't want to work together. They don't believe in, intentional communities with Black Americans. They do whatever. So it is what it is. But for those of us who see the value in that and see how we can benefit from that and see how our children and progeny can benefit from that, or even our legacy, that's for us to decide. And we want to come together on a mission, and we are going to do our own thing, and we don't knock what other people are doing. It's not about like, okay, I have to convince you to do what I'm doing because what I'm doing is the ultimate right and what you're doing is the ultimate wrong or whatever. I don't approach life that way. I don't give a damn what pretty much you're doing at all. As long as you're not hurting children, my thing is, don't be touching these babies. And don't be just killing people that outside of self-defense. Don't be stealing and robbing. This is the typical things. But other than that, I really don't have much judgment for what goes on. My personal calling to this world is for me to develop safety nets for Black women and to think of the Black children and the Black woman. Make sure this Black woman is thriving. Now, obviously, that trickles down to the men, because if you have happy women, you're going to have happy men. If your woman is feeling like she has a safety net, if she feels like she has an infrastructure that she can turn to, that she can thrive in and benefit from, and that she actually has some ownership in, some say in, then that's going to trickle down to the entire community. That is very much common sense to me. That is pretty much in line with what melanated history has also have taught us about our infrastructures and social dynamics between men and women. Now, again, I'm very much early on this. I'm about, I'm a good 100 years early. And so what I did was look to the past and study the past only to give me a sense of direction and to figure out what went wrong, to understand what mistakes went wrong in regards to melanated people's history, what happened, so it's born out of this whole premise of the Queen Mothership is born out of me observing melanated people over millennia, regardless if they were in Africa or in the Americas or in the Caribbean. It was me studying that dynamic between the nobility class, the merchant class, the priesthoods, as well as the commoner, and wanting to understand what happened to melanated people for them to get in this situation. And for 500 years, we still ain't figured out how to get out of it. Something's not right. So I've done that research. I've gotten my answers from the esoteric realm, the physical realm, things that is objectively, that can be empirically verified through documentation, ethnography, through oral history, through the scholars themselves collating their own research on dynamics between melanated people in a historical sense. Then, me understanding the esoteric occult science behind melanated people's situation. There is a spiritual dynamic to this that is going largely ignored, that I have been revealed some very potent information about how to get out of this situation. I've actually written how to break the spiritual malediction, but it falls on deaf ears, and that's fine, because everybody got their cross to bear, and I can only, I'm just a messenger. I can only deliver like, hey, this is what these goddesses are saying, this is what the ancestors are saying, and this is only a covenant for certain people. This was not everybody. It's not even, I don't even think covenant is the right word, because it's not dermaturge in a sense of where you're beholden to something. It either resonates or it doesn't. There are people that completely understand what I'm saying, and it just resonates to them. When we talk about the dark goddess, when we talk about the primordial mothers, we talk about Kali Ma, when we talk about these goddesses that revealed to me certain information about melanated people in terms of what happened to the divine feminine and how it all played out in the form of a spiritual malediction as a result of what happened to the primordial mothers and to the women that were the descendants of those women. And that is where I'm at with it. That's where I stand on it. I'm not bulging on it, because this is information that not only has been revealed to me in the spiritual realm, I've easily digged up the research and confirmed that this stuff was going on with melanated people in terms of the overthrow of the matriarchy. So it's something that right now, the Black American, the African, the Caribbean, is something they are rabidly in denial of. And so you have to give it more time. You have to give this stuff more time to marinate and for it to percolate within a collective unconscious of Black Americans and Africans and Caribbeans. Once they realize, okay, oh shit, that girl Kali was not so crazy after all. She actually knew what the fuck she was talking about. Eventually, this truth is going to smack you upside the head. It is. Just like it smacked me up the side of the head is going to happen. It's inevitable. And you will eventually be forced to get your shit together. You're going to be forced to. It's now no amount of begging the government for nothing and telling the government to do it blaming other people for it, trying to get white people to change. And there is no amount of that's going to get you out of this shadow work. That's going to get you out of doing the work of getting out of the time loop. It's a potentiator. Our situation and the things that we went through as Black Americans, and particularly, and I can't really speak for the Africans, but even if you look at the continent and what they've been going through, just objectively, you can clearly see. You can clearly see that what we went through is a catalyst, is a potentiator for a great incubation of alchemy. It can be. And it's what's frustrating is that we don't see that yet. And so we're time looping, and we're in a program of the Western construct. We're in their programming. So you're operating on their programming. You're extremely predictable, extremely emotional. You lack strategy. And I know that sounds mean to say that, but it's like you're in their programming. And for me, being from the outside looking in, I'm like, they're clearly under a subliminal mind control programming, and they're going along with the script, and they're not breaking the script, and they don't want you to break the script, and anything that is promoting the breaking of the script is obviously shadow banned. So that's what's happening with us, is like, here you have this crucible of energy that the Black American has went through their alchemy, their resilience, their fight, their willingness to be fearless, their willingness to stick together, their willingness to fight for one another. And in some efforts, you have complete idiots among us. Let's be real, that are completely with the system and are going to drag the rest of us down if we don't check them, to be quite frank. But for those of us that can really see what's been left to us, what we inherited as Black Americans through that trauma, it's not just you inherited trauma. You inherited an alchemy ball, pretty much. A big ass alchemy ball just landed in your lap. And you can take that and transmute that into such a great power. You can use that energy to literally propel yourself into a power position. Now, the gods can see this, and the ancient ones can see this, and those of us from the outside looking in can see this, clear as day. And what we're seeing is you are in a trauma bonding programming where it's like somebody has to fix what they've done to me. You have to make this right. Somebody has to change, and somebody has to pay. And theoretically, obviously, that's true. Logically, that is something that humans would do. That is something that any human that with a brain, with a heart, is going to assess and say, I've been wrong for 500 years. I think it needs to stop. Somebody needs to pay for what they've done. That is a very logical response. And then obviously we're looking at the government to do that because they're the ones that have sanctioned a lot of the treatment that we've been getting, and the arbiters of it, to be quite frank. They're the ones that stole and that reclassified, and that stole identities and stole culture. They tried to steal culture, rather. Try to brainwash, try to buck break, try to do everything that they can through the whole kitchen sink at the Black American, the everything they've done, the literal bombings, like certain things that they have done. So we're looking at them and like, you are the one that needs to, that needs to pay. And so I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I think it's very rational and logical. At the same time, it's not even it's a but. It's just looking at it from a different dimension. I know that energy expenditure going back and forth with them, it's a part of their program to distract. It's a part of the program to kind of like, okay, we can kind of dangle things in front of them. We're going to dangle carrots in front of them. We're going to perform like we're going to do something. We're going to give them performances and performative leaders, and we're going to pretty much try to play 5D chess with them, knowing that they're emotional, knowing that they're extremely predictable. If we do this, they do that. If we do this, we do that. They can guess your response every time. So they kind of got you in their clutches because you're operating off of their paradigm, where you're not building leverage and it's not strategic. It's just And so now they have been able to control the narrative of the Black Americans' power move regarding reparations, and that's obviously the biggest one that I'm talking about, where they have set up these commissions all over the country. When you look at it, though, they're all Pan-African. They're all they're completely off the mark of what of lineage based or what of trying to do what the Black American needs. It's not reparations. They're trying to convince you that this is reparations, and this got a bunch of Pan-Africans that are completely undermining us, that are trying to give it to everybody. They got LGBTQ, they got all this stuff. So this is what I mean by, their program, where it's serving as more of a distraction versus teaching the Black American to really get their leverage so that they can really negotiate with the government that's supposed to be serving them. And so I'm much too early on that as well. And I'll get pushback because you guys are emotional. It's like, no, they're going to pay the debt. And yes, they should pay the debt. I want to say this very clearly. I just disagree with the methodology, the method of how we are responding to very clear COINTELPRO infiltration of the reparations movement. Very clear. I don't like the response that I'm seeing, and that's kind of why I'm like, okay, this is too infiltrated for me. I just feel a bunch of agents around me. I feel infiltration, and I don't like that feeling. And I could clear as day see that this is a horse and pony show, that this is a reparations carrot that they're dangling from us in front of our faces, and that the emotionality and the responses of even the quote unquote leaders that are, reparationists or whatever, they've kind of sold out in my eyes, and they are not being truthful and honest about how this shit all looks. This shit looks a mess from anybody that's intelligent. It is a fucking mess. And so we're the grassroots, they're just raw emotion and knowing that something was done wrong, and knowing that there is a debt, and knowing that through the paperwork there is a case here. So that's all. I don't expect the average day Black American to go out and start to plan, okay, on some high level shit like this is what they're doing, that we need to do da. I think that that's up for the leaders to do, and these organizations to do. And the fact that I'm not seeing it lets me know that there's a play involved, and that there is some corruption, and that there is infiltration. And no matter, I'm really from the grassroots. I know a lot of people may think, okay, she comes off like, she's, operative or working with one of these agencies or organizations. I don't. I have no funding from anybody. I don't work with anybody or for anybody. So, it's a difficult position to be in when you don't have the influence that you need to really help your people, because of shadow ban, because of the infiltration is just so deep, where it's a control of who gets a say and who gets to influence. That's how deep this is. If you haven't followed a certain path, taken a certain oath, you're not playing ball, you raising up too many questions, you kicking up too much shit. So it's like, that's just how it goes, but so while it's clear as day that we need more strategy for the grassroots in terms of getting more control over that reparations narrative. These organizations have no interest in doing that. So that lets me know that they're corrupt. They know good and hell well that with this African shit, and with this Pan-African stuff, and with the race stuff, and with everybody just jumping in all on this, and they know that the report, even with that final report, they know that shit got stuff about LGBT and all random shit in there, and everybody's trying to act like this is a win, and I'm just like, this shit right here is too much over my pay grade. Because I'm like, I was literally like kind of shamed into being quiet about it. You know what I mean? Like, I was kind of like low key, like tried to bully me into like not speaking out about the shit that I'm seeing. And I know 100 years from now that like these people are going to look like complete sellouts. Like, it's going to be obvious once history reflects, and once the shit hits the fan, the average Black American is going to be like, yo, we should have been doing A, B, and C instead of this, because this was a part of their programming. You walked right into their trap, and their idea of the trap is, okay, you're gonna get this money. If we give you this money, we definitely reclassifying your ass. We reclassifying you to African American if you get this money. That's the deal. And there's other sinister, way sinister stuff in that. To be honest, like, even if at this point, from what I see from our government and how they playing this game with us, I'm even leery. Even if they was to say, here, go a check, I'm kind of like, I got to make sure I ain't signing no deal with the devil because it's something so off in my spirit about this. It just feels off. And the things that I see that they're doing with these task force all over the country, it's like, damn, like even with it going on in New York and ATL, and it's just like, what the hell? Like, this is not right. Like, this stuff is so high, it's so orchestrated from the top of who they letting on these task force. I don't care what they try to make it seem like, oh, any of us could have signed up. Because I remember asking about this years ago, and I'm like, well, how are they getting on there? And it was revealed to me from people that was really clicked in with that all you had to do was go and sign up. And I'm like, so I tried to sign up. Come on. I'm looking at where to sign up and how to get involved and all this stuff. And they do make it purposely very clandestine. They purposely obscure, what's going on, so that the average Black American, or to prevent the idea of a real revolutionary or of a real strategist or a real Black American that's really about that life from getting on one of them task force. Anybody that can galvanize the people like that. They making sure they pick and choose who gets on it's as simple as that. That's very obvious. That was very obvious to me about a year ago, damn near 2 years ago, when I was being told that all you had to go do is sign up. That's not motherfucking true. People are getting appointed. People are scratching the backs. It is deals being made. Like, this is the high level shit that we talking about. And so, if you see me kind of like, well, why are you not really speaking on reparations like that no more? Honey, Black Americans, hear me out. I agree with the premise and the logic of what reparations stand for, obviously. Don't agree with the methodology of the lack of leverage building to get this government to give you what you want. I see them playing chess and having a horse and pony show and a quasi, how do I say this? They took what was real and raw from the grassroots, the real raw reparations grassroots that was really like, researchers, people from the hood, people from scholars, whatever, is wanting real change and realizing that we need a cash infusion to prevent being a permanent underclass, and knowing that we really, and knowing what we went through. They took that energy, raw energy from people that came on the scenes, especially in the voice chat industry, with the voice chat stuff really popped a lot of this stuff off. Let's be very clear. And obviously social media. But they harnessed that energy, sacrificed a lot of people to do it too, harnessed that energy and brought it to the top, transmuted it into a fake reparations movement that you guys can't see. That's why there's all these Pan-Africans everywhere. It's their movement. It's a Democrat government movement now. And I can see that. And I know that's going to hurt people. And I know it's like, bitch, you talking too much. You're not supposed to tell these people that. These people will get riled up. I can see that this is literally they have taken complete control over the narrative. They have put people in certain positions to where the grassroots is being silenced on complaints about reclassification, on complaints about the lack of direct cash payment emphasis, the fact of wanting to build bureaucracies as liaisons before we get a check, this lack of lineage-based efforts that many commissions are trying to push with Pan-Africanism. It's a lot. And so when I see somebody that comes along, like with me in one of my videos, I was clearly just giving strategy after strategy after strategy of how to build leverage. And a lot of times for the last 2 years, a lot of times I'll say things and I'll see little increments of, because I know that there's think tanks that listen to me. That I know for a fact that think tanks listen to me. And they go back and they scratch something, or they emphasize a lot of some of the stuff that I've been putting, some of the shit that I'll say for the last 2 years. I've seen it been implemented at the top. I've seen it. And but what really, it was strategic. What I did was I pushed the envelope so far in one of my last videos, particularly the Entrusted Melanism video, which was an audiobook of one of the recent books that I've written. But for the first 2 hours, I was like talking about strategies for the reparations movement. But I did that purposely because I'm like, if I push the envelope this far and there's no bulging, that is my confirmation that this is infiltrated, that this space is government infiltrated, and that the government has completely taken control over the reparations narrative. If I push it this far and there's nothing implemented from that particular video, because for the most part, I'm telling you, I've been studying this and I'm a very meticulous person. Every little time I put something out about, certain things, I'll see, even if it's a small little tweak, even if it's okay, and it has happened. It has happened for the last 2 years, and I've noticed that. So I said, well, let me throw this out there. And it crickets, and kind of like, I felt that energy. I felt this silence around. You're doing too much. We ain't doing all of that, because this is something that we are controlling and that we are doling out. So there is no real revolution in this. This is pretty much what the response I was getting. The energy that I'm getting from this as a spiritual intuitive, like. And that was my confirmation. I'm like, okay, I knew. And even some of the people that's involved, I knew some of you guys are just government pawns. And that this movement is fake. It was real. It was real. Like, when I got into this shit, and when we were all in it, this shit was real. Like, we was really dead ass passion. We would have died, or we was getting surveillance, and we didn't give a fuck. We were like, we would have died over that shit. Like, we really believed in that shit. Like, it was hard. And just seeing how that shit just crumbled with infiltration and with agents and with just, the energy just so disgusting and toxic and nasty. And I just, I see it for what it is. So I'm always going to speak truth to power, and I'm going to say emphatically that I think that this strategy of building your leverage by instituting your parallel infrastructures will be the only way to truly bring this government to its knees in terms of paying out reparations. And that's what I believe. I don't believe we have any leverage right now to get any institution to pay out unless it's a moral one. But my thing is, if they're paying out stuff like that, based on something that they want to give us, or because they feel like they're paying a debt, my advice would be to, for one, read all the fine print and paperwork around that. Read any pamphlet, book, because I'm almost positive they're gonna have a bunch of other people up in that bitch. They're gonna find a way to get to do this trickle down economy where, you may get something out of it, but they do not plan on doing anything lineage based. It may be lineage based in law, but they gonna find a way to finagle other people in that shit, and they're gonna be very meticulous about it, to where it's not really caught on. And they're gonna be silencing voices like mine and other people who call it out, because you're not supposed to know the play. You're just to follow the play and be told what to do. And as much as, I don't want to come off like the person of the bearer of bad news or anything, but yeah, it's something off with that. And I would just tell Black Americans, try to gain control over that narrative, start building a leverage base, as much as possible, and, put pressure, put serious pressure verbally, but also do it outside of just verbal. Put pressure on the system, put pressure as much as you can, but that requires organization, and that requires people sticking up, and to mobilizing people figure out those ways to put the pressure on them through the economics. Obviously, is one. That's the biggest one that you have, but you don't have any leverage, and you're not organized to get that leverage, and you know, and to mobilize those type of efforts, it does require a bit of centralization in terms of those who would step up to lead that. And right now, Black Americans are being told by other people and by they're being encouraged to not organize. Like, I've never seen nothing like that in my life. Black Americans are being told for the last 3 years that they shouldn't have any organization, that it should all be decentralized, and that they should have no leaders, and that nobody should be a leader, but the code's going to be a leader. But there's been no real identifying of a code. There's been no structure, no tenets, no values, no blueprints, no paradigms, no guiding philosophy that people can go by, that they can point to, that's relevant. You got stuff from 1980s and shit, you got the compensatory code and all that. But I argue that that stuff needs to be upgraded. This is not a dig at these, this is not a dig at anyone who created plans and things for our community decades ago. That's not what this is about. I'm merely talking about 2023 happenings. And so Black Americans, they are being told certain things that are very, very questionable, and very, very much COINTELPRO-like. So I would tell Black Americans, you will always be at the whim of whoever can out-organize you. Right now, all the immigrants can out-organize you, all of these organizations, these Pan-African groups. You have to organize. You're going to have to put the name banging aside, the bullshit aside. That's all COINTELPRO. All that fighting that y'all doing, that's clearly, come on. You have to be able to spot controlled opposition. You have not been able to properly do that from the outside looking in. Some of the names that are controlled opposition are too big to where if you mention them, the community will attack you. When they're clear as day controlled opposition, the community will outright attack you for coming at certain individuals in the community because they're male or because they come off as fighting for Black Americans. But when if you're really intelligent, you start to just follow people's movements, their ideologies, study them, really study them, then you get to see that these people are leading the blind. They are charlatans. So to me, I don't feel like our community has done a good job of spotting out controlled opposition. I don't think that they've done a good idea of truly understanding the laws in this country, the how stuff came to be, their own history. I don't think we do a good job of understanding how we even got in this situation, understanding our particular bloodlines. The genealogy is one way to do that, but even just knowing even the region or where your bloodline could have been and the activities that was going on in those regions. That's also important to know, and I don't think we do a good job of system-based approach to building out our parallel infrastructures because of the lack of strategy, because of the emotionalism, because of the lack of organization. Now, again, all these things may sound like, oh, you're attacking us. I'm not attacking us. This is just objective observations. If someone is saying like, okay, well, why did you do it? This is what I am actively trying to do. And it's not it's taxing work, because then you have people that attack you, that don't agree with you, that tear you down. You got people that you have to deal with COINTELPRO, you have to deal with niggas, you got to deal with just ratchetness, you got to deal with enslaved-minded people. So you're looking for people that you resonate with, and then you got to hope that you find those people, and then you got to hope that y'all can organize enough to get to the next level, or at least to build your own silos, because that's honestly where I'm at with it. When it comes to the Black American community, I'm realizing that we're going to be splintered off into certain states of consciousness in certain dimensions. And that's not just for Black America, that's for the whole world. The whole world is going to splinter off into certain states of consciousness where the reality is based off of what they've created collectively and individually through their consciousness. And so That's what I see, and that is what is going to happen within Black America. And since I'm ahead of a lot of the things that most people cannot see, I'm like, I understand that the silos is going to happen. I understand that there's going to be new power structures that goes into play, and that when Black Americans get their turn at a power play, that all hell's going to break out. Between certain classes, but then certain states of consciousness. You got people that are literally programmed to self-destruct. And then you got people that are literally programmed to fight and get out of their situation and to build peaceful atmospheres. You got those people. And so those people are going to clash. They're going to clash all over the world. All over the world, those who are programmed to self-destruct and to defect, and they're kind of like sleeper cells for the system. They are byproducts of the system. They have been programmed by the system, and their job is to thwart any efforts of breaking out of certain paradigms and certain time loops. That is their job. And so this transcends, because they're Black American, this transcends that. But I know it's coming. And so you're going to have to physically, emotionally, and mentally separate from those people. The sleeper cells, the people who are programmed to self-destruct. And there are many of them. And so you have to be okay with knowing that not everyone's going to make it. That's the bottom line. So let's start, because I know I'm long-winded and I get into these little tangents, and that's just my nature. And thanks for bearing, with me on that. But let's actually just get into it, So Chapter 8, Sustainable Queen Mothership Villages. Creating sustainable Queen Mothership villages is an essential task for Black Americans. Achieving this goal requires careful planning and a commitment to sustainability principles while considering local conditions, resources, and community needs. One way to create sustainable villages is by introducing green infrastructure such as renewable energy sources, efficient water management practices, waste treatment systems, resilient building designs, and improved transport options. Another key element of establishing sustainable villages is engaging with the community. This includes having conversations about economic and environmental goals, understanding the culture and values of the Queen Mothership Village, and involving local residents in decision-making processes. Additionally, it consists in creating educational programs that inform people about how their daily lives impact the environment and provide them with sustainable alternatives for their activities. Creating sustainable villages also require developing long-term plans for resource management and land use, and setting aside protected land areas to preserve local ecosystems. Collaborative initiatives such as community gardens, shared resources, and renewable energy projects are essential in building a more sustainable village. So here's the details for the Queen Mothership Village. A Queen Mothership community is typically composed of 10 to 60 private homes. It could be more that are or less that are clustered around shared community space on a parcel of land. However, in a profound but straightforward change of neighborhood layout, cars are to be parked on a periphery of properties, leaving pedestrian paths and park-like greenery between houses. And the community is designed to encourage Black Americans to interact with each other frequently and informally. This will be in the form of the main house, or the common house must be built to facilitate this. Okay, so let's keep going. A common house is the hub of the Queen Mothership community. It is a shared space for members to socialize, communal dining, and other activities. The common house typically contains a large kitchen where meals are prepared communally, lounges or gathering areas with sitting and furniture, laundry facilities, a technology room, a game room, guest room or other private spaces for visitors, a library, and even meeting rooms, and a gym. The common house allows residents of the Queen Mothership community to come together and build relationships with one another in an environment that fosters connection and collaboration. It can also facilitate sharing resources within the community or support work projects such as landscaping or gardening initiatives. In addition to its practical uses, the common house plays a vital role in developing a sense of belonging and community among the Queen Mothership inhabitants. Providing a space for members to interact can create a feeling of camaraderie and connection that is crucial to establishing a compelling and harmonious society. The common house thus serves as an essential building block in creating a prosperous Queen Mothership village. Okay, so common house is obviously is an important idea. There are plenty of activities. I actually want to do in a separate video on common house activities. So I want it to be titled something in respect to like the Queen Mothership activities that center around the common house, because the common house will be obviously something that is extremely communal, and it's something that we all would have to put into on a monthly or yearly basis. We'll have to see, but it will be obviously a gym in there. There would be a library, technology room, game room, council meeting rooms. It will be like a common house, like a miniature house for us, for that intentional community to thrive around. Obviously linked to, gardens and whatnot, but we want that common house to be where we commune at, where we have our spiritual development sessions, where we have our meetings, where we have our Sunday dinners, where we have our cookouts, so stuff like that. So I'm going to have a separate video getting into details about the common house activities that we are expected to do and plan. And that's optional, obviously to attend, but just some of the fun aspects of what the Queen Mothership entails. It's a lot of heavy duty stuff in terms of the governance aspects, the food gathering, the gardening, the things that we're going to have to do just to keep it running, to make sure that we have food and we have water, the water procurement, the fence. Those things, they're going to take up a lot of our day. Like, we are trying to become a self-sufficient, intentional community. And so that it's gonna be a lot of those aspects of building. And this is for people who find fun in that, who find experimentation in certain projects fun, in terms of their mind is oriented towards building, and they like to take on creative endeavors and be a part of that as well. So those individuals, like throughout the day and throughout the weeks, we are running high level structure for those in the community. Some of us, especially those who are on the councils, especially those who are the brother keepers, the brother keepers and the sister keepers. Those are people who manage some of the day-to-day activities of food procurement, water procurement, transportation, childcare, all of these things, and so we need to have time and activities that are relaxing, that are calming to the soul, and that are fun to the Black American. So that is why that common house is very important, and the way that we build it out isn't very important, but some of the things that are inside of it, and so we'll do a whole video on that. Okay, so ideally, and this can change, but ideally you want your village to be energy efficient with solar power homes with easy access to nature. So our focus would be on the Black American working class, middle class, whatever class, upper middle class and wealthy. But we understand that working class is very important, and those with vocational skills become very important. And so we believe that character and a state of consciousness trumps one's pedigree or what they have or what they don't have. There's not a space where, as much as I get accused of being an elitist, and I take that, I eat that. Believe it or not, my elitism does not come from judging people based on what they have, what they don't have, their education or their looks. Like, I rarely approach a person with those type of mindset. With that type of judgmental mindset. I am looking at character and state of consciousness, mainly when I come into contact with anybody. I don't care how you look. I don't care what you have. That's just me, and that approach works for me, because there's been a lot of people that have a lot, but they ain't got no character. And even if they could have helped me, put me into certain positions, I still didn't take deals with them or offers from them or work with them, because I felt that those people had no character and their state of consciousness was too low to me. Even if they were millionaires, even if they had way more than me. And it goes like that with the vice versa. Sometimes you have somebody from a low state of consciousness from in the hood niggas, and you can't be around that either. So you have to look at people for their character. Like people like to play Martin Luther King when he talked about, one day we're going to be judging people off of their character and not the color of their skin and whatnot. As cheesy as that might sound to a lot of people, that's some really deep ass shit. Like that's some real high level shit to be at that state of consciousness where you are looking at people's character in their state of consciousness. And so that is what, if people are wondering like, oh, well, I don't have this education, or I'm not working class, whatever. We are not looking at the external stuff. The internal soul is more important, and this whole thing with the Queen Mothership is about getting back to yourself and getting back to your higher self and living your narrative and your truth on your own meaning, on your own time, and coming together with other Black Americans who are willing to do that as well. And you guys enjoy the idea of building something that can stand the test of time, that you're going to ultimately benefit from, that your kids are going to benefit from, and that you can partake ownership from, things that can give you pride. That self-autonomy, and that self-autonomy and that self-determination it was enough to give anybody pride, regardless of what happens to us. Or the idea of putting your best foot and soul power in knowing in your God consciousness that you can take control over this matrix at any time that you want to. That is a very powerful feeling. It's a very powerful feeling. And yes, at times the quantum leaping takes longer than what you expected, or things don't move like in the nanosecond of what you will want, or what you're trying to manifest, and that's fine. But again, it's the intentionality. It's the intentionality and the emotional will pushing that subconscious to the forefront, and to really reprogramming the mind. So that's what the Queen Mothership is about. Is really a deep inner engineering process that manifests on the physical realm in the terms of what the loci of the eye is seeing internally. It's reflected externally around your environment. And so it's, as well as it's a shift in consciousness, this should be very much a shift in your reality if we do this right with the people that we want to do it with. If we do this right and we focus on the blueprint, and we focus on adding to the blueprint, learning from one another, getting each other's opinions, facilitating proper leadership, facilitating proper communication, not even proper, but sufficient, efficient communication, successful communication, I'll say, amongst one another. And we do that properly. And if we do that righteously, if we do that on one accord, we will be set as a people. And again, it's not going to be all of us, but the few of us that get it together, the few of us that, I don't care if it's just all Black women. Now, everybody knows the Queen Mothership it's open to matriarchal Black men, the Black men who understand this system, and to the children. It's open. But, at this point, for those of us who decide to do the Queen Mothership, we're going to be far ahead, way far ahead in consciousness, way far ahead in soul evolution, and way far ahead physically and financially than a lot of these other people on this planet. We really will. Than a lot of people on this planet. Because we're going to be tapping into the quantum plane. And so we're on a whole nother level here. This is some real serious shit. Like, this is like architect of the universe type shit that we're dealing with. Okay, so, Okay, so let's talk about the affordability fund, because, especially for, Black Americans that may not be, that's not working class, that may be a good soul, a good righteous person, but they can't afford, because we have to put in for this Queen Mothership common house, for the land, for obviously the community trust fund helps us do that. But some of the things, like with building out that common house on that piece of land, that's going to require an investment from everybody involved. And you guys know I am with transparency. And I don't have to be the person in charge of the money. We can vote on who that's going to be, who's in charge of making sure we get that land, because we do have a council for just the land management. There is a council, not a council, committee. There is a committee for that, just like there's a committee for the water. But when it comes to like getting that land and building out the architectures on that land, there is a committee for that, and I'll be working very closely with that committee. But we want to make sure that we are properly funding the intentional community so that our common house looks, like something that we want to. Like, we want our kids to literally be like, yo, we going to the common house. Like, every day after they do their homeschooling, I'm probably going to be doing some of the teaching, because we're going to have our own little school and intentional community, and I want to be one of the teachers. I don't have to be the only teacher, but I would love to build a miniature campus, like a real small campus for the children in the intentional community, and just have them go to the school. And we're thinking about, like, turning this educational system on its head. So, like, where it's a homeschool, but they actually going to a school. They're going to a small little school in their own land, in their own community, and with Black American teachers. So we want them, right after they come out of their learning, to say, let's go to the common house and go to the game room, or let's go to the common house. For the high school, let's go to the gym, or let's go do our homework at the library, at the technology room. Let's go on the computers and hang out at the common house, or let's go get a meal, because we're going to be having some days where we prepare meals. We want them to, our children to literally, like, okay, we're going to the common house. And even the adults, after they do their hard work of farming, we're making sure we have produce. They want to go chill at the common house. And so we really want this idea of the common house to be something really, really fun and really galvanizing. Like, okay, you're bored today. You've been all alone and reclusive, but just know that there's somebody at that common house you want to go and talk and hang out. You have that option. And I always wanted that option, because I tend to be very introvert. But there are times where I don't want to be introvert. There are times where I want to go, and I know that there's people that's like-minded and like me, and I want to be with my own community. But I don't want to be you want to have those places where you can be that, and those spaces where you can be that, where you can do that. So that is what this common house is for those of us in an intentional community. So let's talk about the affordability fund. In an effort to be more inclusive and accessible, the Queen Mothership Village will introduce an affordability fund, which will help reduce the cost of joining for those who cannot afford it. The fund provides one-time grants and ongoing support to select members who demonstrate need. Grants are awarded based on income criteria, considering housing costs, family size, medical expenses, and other unique circumstances. The amount of each grant will depend upon individual circumstances and the availability of funds. However, all awards will go toward reducing monthly fees or providing payment relief during times of hardship. Okay, so that's the affordability fund for those of us that other Black Americans who have more will be expected to contribute to, so that we can pay the yearly fees for some of the people that want to actually live on the community. So if you don't have to be on the land to actually be a member of the Queen Mothership, but if you're going to be a part of the community, living on the land and living in the intentional community, then there's some cost with that, on a yearly basis, and then a small monthly basis to keep the common house running and to keep some of the people on the councils, taken care of and whatnot. We're not trying to break people's pockets or drain them of their assets or anything like that. But for those of us that can pitch in a little bit more, or the affordability fund will be included probably in the membership fees, or that one will have to pay, and that will go to a family that we really see the potential in. Because I'm not going to hold you, we're not just going to be getting a random person bum off the street and say, hey, we're paying for you to stay with us. Like, no, like, you have to come to us first. You have to be vetted. We have to meet you and the family, see where your mind is at, and if we deem it, if we like you, then we will pay. If you say you can't afford it, you can't afford the membership fees, or you are going through hard times, but you want to really help out and be on the Queen Mothership, then that would be an option, for us to use the affordability fund to waive those fees, and for you to still be in the Queen Mothership, and for us to, offer you all of those services that we're going to be doing with our children, with the schooling, with the food, with everything that we offer. Okay, so now let's talk about the voting process. The democratic process of the Queen Mothership Village ensures that all members can have a say in any decisions made. For this process to be successful, each member must understand how it works and their role within it. When a decision needs to be made, the first step is for all village members to discuss the issue at hand and brainstorm potential solutions. After all, members have a chance to voice their opinions. It is then time for a vote. Each member is given one vote, which they can cast in agreement with or against any proposed solution. Once the votes are tallied, the majority rules. If more than half of those votes are in favor of a certain resolution, then it is adopted. So typically, we want the vote to have a two-thirds majority agreement from members present and voting, before the decision can be finalized. But if that threshold is not met, the members may decide to reevaluate any proposed solutions and discuss further. So that's probably where we'll go to majority rules. But I do think two-thirds majority agreement, we can see how that plays out, and if that just causes a bunch of fucking disorganization, we'll just go to majority rules, a simple voting, democratic voting process. So that's what, some of the things that we'll be doing. But now I want to get into chapter 11. Some of the things that is included in the Queen Mothership Village in our intentional communities. Now, this is not so much the activities within the common house. This is just some of the logistics of what each Queen Mothership Village should include. Okay, so I'll go through chapter 11 with you, and then we'll be done. So the Women's Safe House Program. This is the Queen Mothership Patrol. The Safe House Program is a revolutionary initiative that provides a haven for women and men in danger of rape or mugging. By displaying a green light in the window, households participating in the program signal that they are willing to offer temporary refuge and assistance to those who need it. When these individuals enter, they are provided with access to phone service and emergency services. Participants receive an identification alerting people of their involvement with the Safe House program. This safety measure will protect countless people from harm and provide them with much needed support during difficult times. As such, it is an invaluable example of community solidarity and defense against violence. So this was actually in a book that I wrote 3 years ago. It was a little bit different as far as the Queen Mothership Patrol. I'm going to actually update this and put that information from the first book into this one. I wish I would have did that at the time, but there is a variation of the Queen Mothership Patrol. This one is a safe house program, and there are things that we do to mitigate, like, if a woman is in harm, or if something is happening, there will be select houses within that intentional community that are kind of like community watch, that one can go to if something is drastic is taking place. And there is we do our own internal investigations in terms of certain violence in our community. We do keep that in-house, and we will have our own judicial process and our own this was stuff that would just be in a community. Now, in the event that it gets ridiculous, like, raping or killing and stuff like that, that is extremely frowned upon. Obviously, extremely frowned upon. But obviously, legally, we that's out of our jurisdiction. But if it comes to like a disagreement, someone slapped the shit out of somebody or something, we'll try to handle that stuff in-house. If a woman feels, she was disrespected, we'll try to handle all those things in-house through our own Queen Mothership Patrol, through our own Women's Safe House program, and through our own judicial system. It's as simple as that, and all of that has been written out. The judicial system that I'm thinking of, we'll have to carve that out better from what I wrote 3 years ago. But Yeah, we'll do that. The next one is establishing a neighborhood watch program as well. So we're going to be focused on preventing crime. Again, this is within our intentional community. We want a safe and secure community. So, the coordinators of these programs, the Safe House program and the crime prevention, they're the backbone of such a program and such as this. They're volunteers. They get incentives to be on that volunteer watch. Like, remember we talked about the barter economy app and how they will get services that they can actually they would get points that they can actually go and buy food from the garden with, or childcare services, transportation services, other services that they may need, homeschooling services that they need. All of their points will go to things that they can actually use, but they will receive certain incentives for volunteering for the program. Most of the things that if we need volunteers for, you're going to get the barter economy points for those services. And if we're keeping the system running in a very cooperative way, then people should be able to get their needs met in terms of their food, their water, their clothing, their services, nails done, hair done, haircuts, schooling, medical care. All of these things should be taken care of by those in the community through the use of our dual economy system that we'll have, to our dual system that is supplemented with the barter economy app. So these people will get their compensation for being on a volunteer neighborhood watch program or the Safe House program. So then we have some neighborhood clubs that we want to have as a part of the Queen Mothership in the intentional community. So we'll start off small, but obviously we want to foster relationships and strengthen social bonds. So there's going to be various types of clubs, and you can come up with any type of club that you want. But examples can include obviously communal dinner clubs, investment club. I think an investment club would be very nice for us. There are bike clubs. A lot of Black Americans enjoy bikes. You got the Black Men's Gun Club. You have a Housewife Club. You can have a herb health club, for herbs. You can have a gardening club. You have a martial arts club. You can come with any type of club. But we are going to have some neighborhood clubs that are established within the intentional community. When we come together and we decide what that is, we'll focus on that. But for those of for us that have certain interests, we'll develop and galvanize around those particular focuses. So neighborhood clubs is just one invaluable asset for bringing us together. So next we have a babysitting co-op. So establishing a babysitting co-op in our Queen Mothership is an excellent way to create a sense of community and foster intergenerational relationships. Doing so begins with understanding the idea of cooperatives and determining how it will operate within our specific context. A cooperative is a group that works together for mutual benefits such as sharing resources, labors, and ideas. In this case, parents can join the cooperative by offering to watch the other children's while they attend work, go out for errands, or have fun. The first step in setting up a babysitting co-op is recruiting members willing to participate. This can be done through word of mouth. Obviously, for our members, we'll have them determine that we'll have a meeting to discuss and decide how the co-op will work. This obviously includes deciding who is responsible for keeping track of appointments, which parents are responsible for providing snacks and meals during babysitting time, and any other essential guidelines that need to be established. Okay, so paying for the babysitter services can be done within the cooperative itself, again, by having parents exchange their services with each other as needed. Okay, and again, this is where our service point economy is also set up, because that they're going to also be using that for exchange of childcare services as well. Okay, so that is the co-op. And then we're going to have an organic food co-op. Establishing an organic food co-op can bring many benefits. This form of collective shopping arrangement allows individuals to purchase items at discounted prices and enjoy the convenience of having fresh produce and other goods delivered right to their doorsteps regularly. In addition, it creates opportunities for members to connect through sharing recipes, food ideas, and tips on how to best utilize sustainable resources. So that is the organic food co-op. Okay, and obviously establish a community garden. Okay, so starting the community garden in the Queen Mothership, it was very important for us. Okay. The next one is establish neighborhood composting and recycling. That is something that we'll do together as far as, breaking down our biodegradable materials into nutrient-rich soil for gardening and landscaping purposes. That is something that we are going to establish together as well. So another thing that is very important in the Queen Mothership is planting trees to manage microclimate in our community. So trees play an essential role in providing a favorable microclimate and wildlife habitat. Planting trees can help reduce the heat island effect in cities where surfaces like asphalt and concrete absorb the sun's energy during the day and radiate it back into the environment at night. Trees intercept this heat radiation by blocking some of it with their branches and leaves, creating cooler temperatures around them. In addition to cooling down an area, trees also improve air quality by removing pollutants from atmosphere through their leaves. Okay, so tree transpiration also helps reduce air conditioning costs by drawing enormous amounts of heat out of the air around a home. So transpiration and other benefits like wind protection can help make homes more comfortable. And so that's why, planting trees is going to be very important in the Queen Mothership, on our land. We may already, we may not need to plant trees if we get land that has trees, but if we don't have that on our land, then we will have to obviously plant that ourselves. And we're going to be very strategic about where we plant those trees as well. So we're not just planting trees just randomly, that all has to be worked out. Okay, so that is just some of the logistics of what we would be taking place in the Queen Mothership. That is just some of the things I wanted to talk to you guys about. That's chapter 8 and chapter 11 of the Queen Mothership Enterprise Architecture book. And the next one we'll be talking about is some of the activities within the Queen Mothership. So we talked about some of the logistics. We talked about what makes up that sustainable Queen Mothership village. We talked about the concept of the common house, as well as like the voting process, some of the things like that. But we're going to go into the actual fun activities, and then we're going to go into some more boring stuff. Like we're going to cover chapter 9, which is procuring water, like water management in the Queen Mothership. So it's going to get a little boring, but these are things that we need to know. And for anybody that's at that high level of consciousness that thinks about these things, you'll be able to learn some things, if anything, even if you don't even if you don't necessarily want to be involved, you'll definitely walk away learning some things. So that's all I have for you today, and I'll be talking to you soon. Talk to you later. Bye.